Welcome to Job Search Stories. I'm Jen, a career coach, and your new go-to gal for all things career advice.
And I'm Gina. I'm an expert of job seekers here at Indeed. And together, we're going to help you navigate this crazy world of job searching. And hopefully, we're going to help some people get their next job.
And today, we are going to go over some common pieces of career advice that job seekers get and separate the myths from the truths. The statement is, or the advice is, you should always give a salary range, not an exact number, when asked about your salary expectations. 3, 2, 1.
Boom. Okay, so we both think it's a fact.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to explain your answer first?
Okay, so this is advice that I got from you. Basically, I feel like you need to give a range because you don't want to cap yourself. If you give like one solid number or an exact number, it may be lowballing yourself and you may get way less money than they're even willing to offer.
Yes. Yeah, I would say this is true, and I'll give a little caveat here. One is when asked by a recruiter in the early stages, if you're going to give a salary, give a range, not an exact number.
Okay.
So you should definitely be prepared to give a range.
Yeah.
But also want to recognize that sometimes people are not ready to give a range. They really want to hear what the job entails and they want to know what the budget is, especially if it hasn't been disclosed.
Yeah.
So always do your research, but just know that you always have the opportunity to put it back on the recruiter to give you a little bit more information before you give that range.
Yeah. Do your research.
Get some more information.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
You always tell me that.
All right, Gina, the next piece of advice that we're going to look at is you should always tailor your resume to the job that you're applying for.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Fact. Hey, we both said fact.
We both said fact.
Ooh, I feel really reassured when ours are the same because you have the answer. I'm just guessing. So.
Well, I would say most of these are 90% fact.
Okay.
And I will say that especially when it comes to tailoring your resume, if you're applying for a lot of different roles, sometimes that can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
You should absolutely have multiple copies of your resume because you will do some tweaking to it dependent on the job description and what a particular company is looking for. But you shouldn't necessarily be doing large overhauls because if you're taking that time at the beginning of your job search to really identify your skill set and what you're going to be looking for, from one company to another, there might not be large changes. Should be minor tweaks.
Hashtag tailor that resume.
Tailor your resume.
Cool. Okay. I want to ask the next one.
Okay.
I think it's my turn. Okay. This is controversial. Real controversial. Okay. So, myth or truth? Nobody reads cover letters, so don't bother. 3, 2, 1. I said fact. You said myth.
It's a myth.
I don't believe that.
Okay, tell me why.
I'm not reading no cover letter, so I'm assuming no one else is.
Okay, so you don't read them, so nobody else reads them.
No. I just feel I'm not the person to give the advice. I'm not the career coach with years of experience.
Okay.
But I truly feel like cover letters are a waste of time. Why should I have to pitch myself for this job when you can just read my resume?
Right.
Oh, I really want to work for this company. No.
Okay. So what if you're in a situation where you're applying for a role and there's 4 different Ginas and they all have the same background as you?
Impossible. It could happen. It's a pretty common name. But so,
names aside.
Okay.
First, names aside. Let's say you're applying for a position.
Okay.
And there are 3 other candidates with a very similar degree, very similar work experience, very similar skill set as you.
Yeah.
How is an employer supposed to then decide, okay, I've got 4 qualified candidates, but I can only move 2 to the next round?
Yeah. What you're saying is I'm not special.
I'm saying sometimes on paper, it's very difficult to tell who's going to be more qualified or a better fit for a role when you have very similar backgrounds.
So you're basically saying if you want to break through that noise, write that cover letter
Yeah. And so one good example that I've seen in where this is applicable, and there's a lot of different instances in which you would want to write a cover letter.
Okay.
But with what I'm explaining right now, I've actually worked with a board certified nurse career coach. And he spends a lot of time coaching nurses on personal branding, which I think is something that you wouldn't maybe necessarily think is a thing.
For nurses.
For nurses, right? Because they're skilled.
Yeah.
It's a very specific skill set.
Yeah.
But that's the exact reason why, is because a lot of times nurses are applying for roles, competing with other nurses with very similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
And on paper, everybody's kind of looking the same, right? And nobody's looking like a standout in terms of who might be more qualified or a better fit for the role.
Yeah.
And so that cover letter is a really great opportunity for you to share your story, for you to really talk about what are your motivations? Why are you really interested in this role?
Yeah.
Because that can make that human connection and get you to that next round.
If you found this advice helpful, please make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast, leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and we hope you enjoyed these episodes. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.